Oh, you're done?
One more.
Should I bring in a tier 3 or a 4-person?
A tier 3 or a poor oh, okay, do 2. One tier 3 and then some rando.
Pink!
Oh.
Pink! Hello, go ahead.
Hi, let me just switch over. Trying to play Returnal. Hi Stephen, hi Mooten.
Hi.
I got a few things maybe to talk about, something that I think is additive to what you've been talking about the last few calls. Or I can argue with you about online privacy and the social media ban and stuff like that.
I mean, it's your calling, so whatever you want to do.
Well, I'll stick with what the last few calls have been on about. I wonder what you thought of. I've had this thought brewing in my head for a while now, relating to what you've been talking about with the current media environment and algorithms. And I think you alluded to it somewhat before when you talked about the sorts of people that now talk about politics. Like it used to be
More politically interested people now, like every single person on the planet, like the Joe Rogans, everybody are just discovering politics now for the first time and have very serious, or opinions that are taken probably too seriously because of how popular they are, yeah.
So, my proposal is kind of bring back gatekeeping.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I agree, but I don't know how the fuck you possibly can do that.
I feel like the internet has democratized everything, which is cool and everything, but it has allowed every sort of vintage idiot with a microphone to spew their opinion and also to find someone else equally stupid to reinforce their opinion and make it seem like it's less stupid. Whereas before, someone talking about the Earth being flat in their own town would have been ridiculed. Now they can find 200 people who believe the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is essentially all the politics today, and not just politics, also social issues. Everything gets through the algorithms sort of divvied up into these increasingly more divergent and extreme positions, and all of their opinions get continually reinforced, either through the algorithms or through the or through social reinforcement. I can't remember who it was. I think it was like the angry guy a few calls back, talking about trying to convince, why don't you just look at the data? Why don't you just look at the data?
Yeah.
I think he overestimates, and I think you do too sometimes. Underestimate. I think you underestimate how much a normal person is just a low information.
No, I don't understand at all. I think I have pretty accurately pegged. This is why I talk about how important the journalist class is because a normal person is just never going to have the time nor the desire to look through 99% of like political issues or things that might even be relevant to their life or for them to vote on. Which is why it's nice to have a journalist or somebody communicate this information to you in like a bite-sized, understandable manner. That used to be their job. I think I'm accurately assessing that pretty well.
Yeah. Do you see any way out?
Yeah, skylifting bulldozers and dropping it on X. I don't
know. I agree. I mean, it ties into I think your complaints about social media and algorithms. I do think governments need to start legislating against how social media delivers things to us. Because I think that's probably not the only part of the problem. I think it's one of the biggest parts of the problem in terms of how devices become.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, obviously, I super agree with this. Yeah, it's one of my big talking points. I think is getting rid of like the For You sections on social media pages, or finding a way to deliver content to people who aren't searching for something or requesting it. You're just like delivering it to them automatically. Yeah.
I also think it ties into something. I think it was the L person talking about Russia. I think when Russia lost the Cold War, they didn't stop propaganda. They kept on going.
Yeah.
And I think the West just went like, okay, we won, and then stopped. I think we should bring back propaganda. Like, I don't think propaganda is inherently bad. I don't know about you. You're slightly younger than me, but I grew up with a lot of things that I would consider to be healthy propaganda. Like, I grew up in South Africa, but
Jesus.
it was constantly like pick up litter. It was after the apartheid stuff, right?
Okay. Okay.
Well,
sure,
at least
sure.
while I was conscious, right?
That was a sketchy statement, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I got to live through the best era in South African history, I think, because I got to see Mandela get out and then become the first like black president and all that cool stuff, and he was super cool. Which does get me very angry when people talk about Israel Palestine and talk about
the ANC and everything.
Apartheid, or talk about the ANC be anything like Hamas. Fuck off.
Sure.
Absolute delusional cunts. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, when I grew up, it was constantly on TV like, hey, you should pick up litter. You know, it's super important for your environment. Like stuff on TV, like our cartoons were like Captain Planet, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched that. There's also things like, hey, brush your teeth, you should do that. Drink milk, it's good for your bones. Like there was a bunch of relatively small things. Also stuff about the ozone layer. You know, how we shouldn't create pollution to increase the hole in the ozone layer. And I don't know, the environment, at least as a kid growing up, seemed to be, we're going to pump as many positive messages into you as possible. It was also a lot of anti-racism stuff, but in a way that to me felt a lot more genuine than it does today. Where I think today it tends to feel somewhat disingenuous often, and preachy, whereas I don't know if it's just rose-tinted glasses, but as a kid it felt like, hey, you know, everyone's cool and the same and we shouldn't be racist. I don't know, it felt a lot more genuine back then. But I think we need to bring back that. I don't know what your thoughts on that are. Like that sort of messaging.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean. There's a there's like this concept of when a person who loves you is giving you feedback or criticism, like the feedback is coming ideally from a place of like, I love you and I respect you and I'm telling you this because I know you can do better. Whereas for a variety of reasons, you know, who knows, maybe because we won the Cold War, because we won a lot of culture wars, or liberalism became the dominant idea, blah, blah, whatever fucking reason. It feels like a lot of the criticisms from some Americans towards other Americans they felt a little bit more hateful. Like, rather than we're criticizing America's past because we know America can do better, it started to take on like a more hateful tinge of like, America is just evil and it's like fundamentally evil and maybe it actually can't be made better. It needs to be like reimagined. And I think when you fall down that road, or when you walk down that road too far of doing that type of messaging, eventually, like, why would we even want to save or feel any kind of attachment towards this concept of America when all we hear is like how horrible and evil and terrible and bad it is? Rather than like, America's done amazing things and America's done bad things. It's important to understand our bad things so that we continue to do good things and do better things in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a similar stuff happening in the UK, whereas, you know, now the majority of the messaging is like British Empire bad, colonialism bad, you know, which obviously is truth to a lot of that. But a lot of the messaging from the top is negative. I do think that sort of messaging has led to what I would call the tinder for the creation of the tinder, as in, you know, stuff you use to light a fire.
Yeah, for the right, because it's like you got one side, one group of
Yeah.
people is telling you to feel like shit and to hate your history and hate everything else, and the other people are saying that like your history is perfect and, you know, fuck these guys, they're haters. And, you know, regardless of the factual claims underneath them, it feels better to be with a group of people that aren't constantly shitting on you or attacking you or undermining you or telling you how horrible you are. Like, emotionally, naturally, people would gravitate towards that to some extent. Sure.
Yeah, and I think when people feel like their identity, or at least things that they identify with, is attacked, they naturally react offensively, and that makes them withdraw and become less prone to listening to the other side.
Yeah.
And I do think the left has an issue with messaging in a way that feels constantly like an attack, even when someone might just be naive or uneducated on a particular topic. And then when that let's say, good faith but ignorant person feels under attack, then the right is there with open arms, like, hey, we love you, we like you, you know.
Yeah.
And then they pick them up. And,
Yeah, I
and
agree
then
with that, yeah.
the right has got another convert. I think also a similar thing is happening in the UK with race and identity and culture.
Mm-hmm.
So you're American, and obviously I think most Americans have, I assume, a cultural identity of being American, which stands above any racial identity. Would you say that's relatively correct?
If you were born here, 1,000,000,000% for sure. Then maybe for people that are like newly immigrated, depending on where you're coming from, maybe not. But for people that are born here, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Or they come here young.
It depends on the community, though.
No.
You don't, but not for Black people. You don't think?
No, they especially for Black people, for African Americans.
They identify as American first,
as opposed to.
Well, they're African American. They're not just like Black.
They're African American.
Well, they're African American.
American though. That's a huge important part of the cornerstone identity. Yeah, for sure.
And I grew up with a very similar thing. Like, I was South African before being white, right? I don't know how aware you are of like the recent UK racial tensions increasing and the grooming gang.
Yeah, a little bit familiar with them,
all that
unfortunately.
stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a thought that one of the things that is increasing racial tensions in European countries is that if you are in America, or if you're in, I would say, let's say, any post-colonial country, you have a cultural identity that is based on the nation and nationhood, and it's not racial, or isn't for most people. So like Canadians, Americans, South Africans, at least.
I would say for New World people, that's definitely true. And I don't know how South Africa. You said post-colonial. You mean like colonized nations, not like.
Previously colonized nations. Yeah,
that might be true. Yeah, for sure. For Europe, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think that's true. But
like South Africa has the whole Rainbow Nation thing going on.
Sure.
It's been a while since I've lived there, but like, it was, the whole point was we are collectively all South African, before being anything else.
Sure.
So when I was South African, or I'm still South African, but when I was in South Africa, I'm South African first, but then I'm also descended from British, right? That's a secondary thing.
Sure.
And on my mum's side, descended from Jews. And then, but if you're English, for example,
mm-hmm.
There's a similar sort of conversation happening with the English identity, where like everyone can be English, but if you say white English, you've got nothing to culturally fall back on. Whereas if you are, for example, a Caribbean immigrant, like you're a second generation,
mm-hmm.
you're English, but you're also, I think most people, I don't know if there's anyone in chat who corroborate this, but I think you tend to have a secondary identity under that, which underpins your overall identity. And I think a lot of the reason why there's a lot of racial tensions amongst certain white people in particular in England and Scotland, the UK in general, and I think Europe in general,
mm-hmm.
is because they feel like their cultural identity is being eroded, and there is no secondary identity. Like, there's nothing that, like if you went back 200 years, you would have been Mercian or something, right? But that doesn't exist anymore.
You would have been.
Maybe you could be Yorkshireman.
Mercian.
I
don't know what Mercian is.
It's a region in the middle of England.
Bong or shit.
Like where Birmingham is, yeah.
Okay.
Or like a Yorkshireman or whatever, right? There would have been some secondary identity, but that's all kind of been eroded. So not like now there is just English.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as an Englishman, you can no longer, like, as a white Englishman, you have to share that. I think that's the feeling. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I kind of get it. I think that it actually a little bit ties into the thing that we were talking about over like when you become like the dominant culture, you run into kind of a weird issue where you get benefits from that, and then you get things that hurt you from that. So like a benefit obviously is that everybody kind of adopts the culture, But then like the downside to that is you kind of get lost in it, and that you're not really like, what are you supposed to say as a white American that your culture is explicitly? I think this is why white Americans, Europeans cringe, but it's why you get like people are like, oh, I'm Irish or I'm Italian when they're Irish Americans or Italian Americans, because they're like, well, what do you claim now as white culture when it's kind of become just like everybody's culture? But then you also run into the issue of like, well, actually, there are some things that we can call white culture. Do you know what those things are? If you were to guess what I'm going to say.
Are we talking about in America?
In America or in Britain, actually, I would say it's the same. When people are talking about like white culture,
well, it's gonna be if it's on the left, it's gonna be like slavery.
Yeah, it's all bad stuff.
Colonialism.
All of it is bad, right? Such to the point that and I'm not saying this isn't for good reason, but like in America, if you were to say like, oh, like I'm like a white identitarian or I care about like white history or white, like people instantly assume you're a Nazi, right? And again, not for no reason. Like obviously they have used that in the past.
Yeah.
But it does put you in a weird spot where it's like, okay, well, fuck, what am I supposed to feel proud of, I guess, if I have this racial or ethnic background and I've kind of become like the dominant culture, but I can't take credit for that because it seems bad. So, yeah, it's a weird and annoying world to be stuck between, I think, yeah.
I mean, I kind of think that feeling has less merit in America and South Africa and countries like that because there is the overall like American culture or South African culture, but I think there's probably a stronger argument in Europe. But like, so if you were, for example, in control of, let's say, the Labour Party's messaging on cultural issues right now, what do you think you would tell them, if anything?
If you were in the UK,
yeah, with the current racial tensions, like if you could just wave a magic wand and control their PR. Is there anything you would do differently from what they're currently doing? I don't know how aware you are.
I have the problem. I just don't even know because I feel like the UK shit it's different in the United States where I consider racial stuff and these types of anxieties to be kind of like luxury things that aren't like they're not. Yeah. I don't think they're. I think they're not real. But that gets into a whole other thing. But I think in the UK, I mean, like for instance, you've seen massive shifts in the types of immigrants that are coming to your country, and then you separate it from the European Union, so you have like this EU skepticism and whatever that kind of exists that to some extent is like shielding British identity. Why are you guys different from the EU and you don't want to be part of it? Obviously you have all of your all of the ordinary like color related tensions. I don't think I have a deep enough understanding of like race relations in the UK or in England to be able to give like a prescription of how I would even message on it. I don't know how English people traditionally and then today even talk about their, I guess, like ethnic identities or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would do differently. I mean, I know what I would do policy wise, and I would do a similar thing in America. Like, everything that gets labeled as DEI.
Sure.
I wouldn't get rid of it, but I would retarget it. Let's say based on income, which should theoretically pick up the same disadvantaged groups, but without what I feel like is unnecessarily creating a feeling of unfairness or jealousy amongst people. Like, yeah, I know, like the right would still, that certain aspects of the right would still use it as an attack, but I feel like it would be harder for them to do so.
Maybe. That. I mean, I've thought about stuff like this, like why not just do income-based versus like racial-based? But I think especially after all of the Trump stuff, I think one of the issues with this framing is that like, it's hard to even talk about this because of everything. And it's just like, I think we clearly do still have some kind of like racially related stuff going on in the United States that for a variety of reasons is hard to talk about. Like, for all of my, and I've said this a lot, like I'm very critical on like DEI messaging and affirmative action messaging, but it's very hard for me to wrap my brain around somebody saying like Kamala Harris isn't qualified to be the president of the United States without like incorporating her gender or race into it. That's just a crazy statement to me. And then,
I mean, you can't deny there's outright bigotry still.
Yeah, so it sucks sometimes when there's like bigotry that's focused on people's characteristics, and then we say that we're going to try to alleviate that issue, but we're only going to do it by focusing on people's on the non-related characteristics, right? On the the class stuff. I mean, if it was like overall, I guess if it played out better, then like if it actually led to better outcomes for people supporting it, I guess maybe I'd support it. I don't know if I'm fully convinced it would, but.
Well, I think it'd have to be twofold. Like, on the one hand, obviously you need to have very strong laws against discrimination of inalienable characteristics, but I think in terms of the other side with the supporting disadvantaged groups, I think it would. I mean, I'm just assuming, but I feel like it would work better if it were based on income. But then again, bring back propaganda, like bring back all the, I don't know, cheesy 90s, 80s, like every cartoon has like whatever every race kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what the Captain Planet stuff. I don't. Do you? You're how old are you? 36?
37, 36, 37.
37. Yeah, I'm 42. So, do you feel like? I don't know if this is just again rose-tinted glasses, but do you feel like race relations were trending very positively in the 90s leading up to the 2000s and like the early 2000s, and then have gone down again? That's how it feels to me.
Yes, although I would say yeah. I would have to be careful though, because obviously there could be things that I'm just missing as a white dude, maybe that I'm not seeing. But I mean, like,
that's what I'm not sure on either.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we had better representation and we were going in like a better direction. And now it feels like we're taking a step back.
What do you mean by like better direction? Like just like in our cartoons and stuff? Because like I know growing up we had
in
like,
everything
tons
for me, it
of
felt like it
just
was
representation. It felt like.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking of is that like it felt like as a kid, it felt to me like. It didn't feel like there was any hatred. That sounds so weird, but it didn't feel like there was hatred behind the diversification of a lot of our media. Like, it just felt like it was like, oh, here's like more people that we can have involved, and like sometimes it's really good to be like sensitive to the issues that they might have experienced. But
you have an episode going over their issues or whatever, kind of.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like here's a black character and it's good that we have him to show how evil like all the white people are or something like that. Like it felt more like additive or collaborative rather than like combative or something. Yeah.
I have the same experience and feeling. Like growing up, it felt like even more so I'd say for me growing up in South Africa, it's like, oh hey, we're getting rid of all the legal discrimination against black people and everyone else. It was like, and huge steps for me. But then also watching America, because you were still culturally dominant, so we were all watching your stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
do you think that's because the media is like telling us to feel that way nowadays, and they're like throwing it in your face of like, oh look, like this is a black TV show, it's all black people, versus back in the day you could watch like The Proud Family or like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and that I don't feel like that was on anybody's mind.
Well, you don't feel like what was on anybody's mind? Wait.
Like that we're watching like a show of all black people. It was just like this is a show.
I disagree. I feel like Fresh Prince.
I was young, so I'm not sure.
I think Fresh Prince and the Cosby Show had. I mean, like, there were just episodes that was like episodes of like things that everybody goes through, but there were definitely a lot of episodes that touched on like race relations,
cop racial issues,
and identity issues
but
too.
In a very good way, I felt. I mean, at least like I never felt like watching, because I did grow up watching the Cosby Show and the Fresh Prince, and what's that one with Steve Urkel?
Family Matters, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so stuff like that. And I never felt watching that as a little white kid. I never felt like they were attacking me in dealing with any of these issues. Whereas sometimes, I think with today's media, sometimes like there's a part of me that's like, like this feels kind of targeted. Like I understand where you're coming from, and there's an emotional, there's a more like deep
I mean, we can look like
so
like one of the really popular pieces of media would be, and I liked it, and I'm a big boy, so I don't feel attacked or whatever. But like the Black Panther is like a black superhero, and they have like the secret country of Wakanda that had to stay hidden because of like the evil whites and racism from around the world. And like the movie like played into a lot of those tropes as well. You had them stealing back artifacts from like a museum, which is something that the Brits get criticized for. Like it takes a much more hostile like race relation approach, I would say, than like other stuff. Not to say that it was bad or anything like that, but it's definitely like a more
Oh, I know how to describe it. It's I think the Cosby Show and Fresh Prince and stuff dealt with racism in, I think, an interpersonal way. So it's just talking about individual racists in general. Whereas I think maybe there's been a shift to talking about more systemic racial issues, and maybe that, if it's not handled well, can feel more like an attack because it is inherently collective.
I guess maybe, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, like, I feel like, I don't know, The Fresh Prince had a lot of episodes about racial issues that, like, there was I mean, you had the episode where they get pulled over by the cops, and Carlton doesn't understand why the cops are, like, pulling over them for driving the car. You know, they had that episode where Carlton and Will are trying to get into the same fraternity, and it's a little bit weird because, like, the guy in charge, the black dude in charge, doesn't think that Carlton is, like, black enough. And, you know, it's like they're wrestling with the identity between being wealthy but being black and, you know, being authentic but not being a sellout. And there's just, like, a lot of weird stuff like that. But even like, the episodes where they're dealing with this, I guess I'm never feeling like, I guess an emotional person. Because I'm not feeling like I'm under attack by any of these things. Whereas you definitely feel a little bit more on the defense. Like, I guess I never, when I look at those things in the past, like, I never got the feeling of, like, shut up and listen. It was more just like, here's a captivating story, and you as, like, a human being with, like, some bare level of emotional empathy should be able to understand, and I think you generally could.
Yeah, I have exactly the same experience to those shows. What about you, Mooten? Because you're much younger, right?
I feel like growing up, our shows, it was kind of just so normalized, and I didn't really ever think like, oh, that's like a black character, that's an Asian character, whatever. Like Codename Kid Next Door, they had every kid, and every kid was cool for like their own reasons, but it didn't feel like people were like harping on like, oh, like race or anything like that. And this was for every television show that I grew up in. It didn't feel like race or sex was really like a talking point. It was more of like, these are cool characters and they exist. I don't know if that's changed today. I feel like we might be in like the booming out territory where none of us are watching like kid shows today, and we're just seeing like the highly controversial stuff on the internet that are getting like tossed out there. So I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know for kids shows today. I haven't seen anything where I'm like, oh, this stuff is really ideologically driven, or like really hateful, I guess. But it does feel like the mainstreamish stuff has gotten a little bit more.
Yeah, like big movies and stuff like that. I think it has gotten more
divisive
like that. Yeah,
like there's a good guy and a bad guy historically.
Now. Yeah,
the stuff that pissed me off as like a history nerd guy is like a relatively recent Netflix like Cleopatra documentary, for example. Like stuff like that where that feels like it's both afactual and also deliberate. You know, I don't know if you know about this controversy, but they did a documentary with Cleopatra, right?
Yeah.
And of course she was Greek, right? So like it's just that kind of stuff that pisses me off on like a autistic history nerd level. But that kind of stuff is the stuff that I feel like is incredibly damaging overall, and like really unnecessary. And I sometimes wonder, like BLM, when that happened. Obviously very, very, very justified movement, but I feel like some very minor changes to the messaging would have undercut a lot of that. Like, not all lives matter, but like instead of Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter too. I don't know, but like just adding that too for me feels like no one can accuse anyone in that movement of saying Black Lives Matter over anyone else. Whereas like the sort of reactionary rightoids, I think at the time were like, oh no, white lives matter, or no, all lives matter, right? But if you're just saying Black Lives Matter too, for example, that might have been better messaging. And I don't know if you agree with that, but I feel like there's a lot of little things that are I think unnecessarily divisive.
Yeah, you're saying little things. So like I think actually there's been a lot of white women have damaged us irreparably. No, I'm just kidding. There's been a lot of like issues talking about victims and stuff and like taking psych terms and like trauma framing or whatever, where sometimes we forget that it's okay to be politically effective. So like, you know, we say things like oh, like, you know, rape culture and all this has made it so you're looking for like a perfect victim. There is no perfect victim. Like in the civil rights era in the United States, that's absolutely not true. There were absolutely better victims that they wanted to highlight. The most the biggest example was Rosa Parks, right? There was at least one other case of a black woman who, you know, had issues. I don't know if it was the same type of story where being seated on a certain side of the bus or whatever.
I feel like I heard that this lady, like, I don't know why people didn't like support her or whatever, because she was like a criminal in the past. I don't know if I got like a Republican talking point about this or what.
Yeah, it's basically like, but the civil rights people back in the day, they were very, 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 very tuned into and aware of how everybody would be viewed politically. Like they were very sensitive to these issues. And when they were doing marches, when they were doing protests and demonstrations and sit-ins and everything else, they were highly strategic about every single thing that they did. And it's a bit of a crime that for MLK, you know, the quote that all of these wokey lefty retards use is, you can't put a timetable on a black man's freedom. And they use that quote to mean that like there should be no strategy or anything with their approach at all.
Like we go
you should
now
just be able
and
to,
do it
yeah,
today?
you just do now, do everything, and it doesn't matter how you present it. That's bullshit. And that's these movements were highly strategic in the past. And I feel like because of our trauma framing or psych framing or whatever the fuck for everything, we just like have lost the ability sometimes as people on the left to think that like maybe we should try to message our politics effectively. We just kind of assume
think it's
that everybody should just
or do you think it's like people have just like it's just like not given up, but like we're complacent?
Well, yeah, I think
like
that
we're fat and happy.
The complacency, I think, was the root of what I just said. So, like, what I'm saying is the applied thing, but the reason why is because, like, a lot of the civil rights people largely won out on a lot of things that we're fighting for. We got the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. We got, you know, obviously slavery was abolished way before that. Like, for a lot of these big battles were kind of won socially, so then people forget like how to defend them or how to message about them or how to do them, and then as a result, we're
makes sense. Yeah.
It feels like, as a summary, like modern progressive and leftist movements are living the what is the phrase? Don't let perfect
get in the way of good or whatever.
Or get in the way of good. Yeah, like they're living that with everything they do. It feels like, and it's very few people who try and view things a little bit more pragmatic. Like, are we making progress in the right direction? Like, it might not be ideal, but are we going in the right direction? Focus on that. Whereas your Hassans and people like that are like, no, if it's not that, or like, oh no, we can't vote for Kamala because she like acknowledged Israel in one time or voted for defensive arms. So it's like, fuck Kamala, as how we get Trump, right? That seems to be all of their messaging on that side of the internet, which I find deeply frustrating.
Sure, but again, it's because we have to keep in mind, it's because they're playing fundamentally a different game, right? Like anybody that's all or nothing on something just doesn't care about the issue that much, either because it doesn't affect them or whatever. They're just using that issue as like a proxy for some other thing, you know?
Just pivoting randomly to the social media stuff, and I think online privacy. You mentioned before you view that people shouldn't have anonymity, for example, if they are... What was your exact...
I don't know, political figures or journalists. Like, I think we need way more openness about like the sources of funding they have and the funding sources and especially like who they are or whatever. But I mean, that's generally not a problem in the real world. But the sources of funding,
but
things
not like... Not necessarily normies.
I mean, it depends on what we count as a normie. Like, if you're running like a TikTok account, like Libs of TikTok, and you've got like you're running like a Twitter account or something, and it's like hugely influential. I think at some point you need to be able to know who these people are too. Yeah.
I think I would probably broadly agree with that. What's been frustrating in the last few streams, anytime the UK social media stuff has popped up, unfortunately, I think I broadly agree with Taylor Lorenz on a lot of the stuff. My worry with the social media ban, in particular, is it's a gateway to... do you know about the digital ID stuff?
No, but just you saying that, I can already imagine. The issue is that like the people involved are kind of like tech boomers, and in order to ban kids from social media in a thing that might seem like good-spirited, the way that they're doing it is probably using a tool that is insanely overly broad that would lend itself to a lot of abuse in the future for really, really bad things. But once implemented, you're probably never getting rid of it.
That sums it up very well. So like initially, they brought out... I can't remember, the Online Safety Act, which mandated certain websites over a certain size would have to prove users' identity to prevent children, which of course means getting ID from every single adult in practice, right? Because children don't have ID. And then, in addition to that, they wanted to introduce a digital ID card, which again, not inherently bad in and of itself, but I don't necessarily trust our government institutions to do it well.
Do you guys have like a social security number or anything like that?
We have what's called a national insurance number, which I guess is the closest thing to social security. But you get that when you're 16, I think.
It sounds like it solves everything, no?
Theoretically, yeah. Like putting your, but it's not. That's not secret. So you could just get the number, like, you know.
What do you mean it's not secret?
The U.S. is the only, when you say social security number, the U.S. is like the only country on the planet where we use our health insurance number as like our identifier number. I don't think any other country does that. So even though in the U.K. they have unique national insurance numbers, they would never say like, I need you to verify who you are. Give me the last 3 or 4 digits of your national insurance number. That would sound crazy to, I think, most Europeans. Whereas in the United States, that is how we use our social security number as our identifier.
I'm just asking, like, why can't we move towards that if you're getting it at 16 or whatever?
Because I could just give you my national insurance number, right? And then
sure, but why would you want to do that?
What do you mean?
Well, they would get it from their parents. Just so right now, right?
Well, then that would
kids
be on
are getting
the
around right now, kids are getting around the ban by either spoofing one of the current ID check-in methods by holding up a fake ID, which is very easy, or someone was doing it using a picture of Solid Snake.
Okay.
From Metal Gear 5, not Solid Snake, but whatever version of Snake that is,
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. So, I mean, the government. I don't care if we just use a national insurance number, right? Because I don't see the necessity for this in the first place. But the government, well, no, we can't have kids looking at anything like that ever. So we need to have a digital ID,
Sure.
Which they said will be completely optional, but you have to use it for your right to work. Which means that if you have a job, it's not optional. So that's bullshit.
My opinion on this is like, put it out there, make adults either angry or uncomfortable about giving this information over, and have the government actually go and do a better system. NFTs are an interesting way to kind of do this. Like, there's got to be a better way. And
I think there is. I think like a few other European countries have done it, and I think a way that I would probably be okay with. Essentially, you would have like two-factor authentication on your phone.
Yeah.
You would have an online ID app that sits on your phone, for example, and that's generating a cycling ID, and you put that in. So in that case, you're not giving your identity to any other website, so there's no risk of, if that website gets hacked, which it probably would at some point, like that hacker getting access to your identity. All the website gets is a one-time token that verifies that you are of age or whatever.
Love it.
Right. So, but that's not what they're proposing, right?
Yeah, I think that I think there's two huge issues. Yeah. Well, go ahead, finish your thing, because I'm gonna.
Yeah. So, like, most people in the UK are against that online ID thing, so the government went back on that. But now they've introduced the social media ban for under 16s. Which, again, inherently I don't necessarily disagree with, but I think personally we should target it on the phones themselves. Like, for example, cell phones in parental mode, like and then the parents have to unlock it to make it an adult phone, so to speak, right?
I said like you would have to unlock it at a specific like dealer. This was another one of my ideas. Like, you have to go to T-Mobile.
I would also be okay with that, yeah. And then you prove your ID
over, and then they unlock it for you.
I'll be happy with that as well, but again, that's not the way they're proposing to do it. And yeah, like this just seems like a very clear like A, B, C, D. Like we're trying to create an environment where you have to have a digital ID, and there's a whole sort of ream of risks with that I'm not comfortable with. And I'm generally a pro-privacy guy. But yeah, I don't know. I just think you guys should look into this a little bit more because it's happening in various states. Real quick,
I don't disagree. Well. I think, and I've said this before. I don't disagree necessarily with Taylor's arguments. I just think she's a fucking lunatic, and I think every argument that she provides is fucking dog shit. Because she'll say like, "Oh well, LGBT kids need the internet or whatever bullshit." Like, I think that's retarded. My take on it is, I think two huge things. Is one, do you have any kids?
No.
Okay, I don't know why this happens, but every time somebody has kids, they instantly forget every single fucking thing that they did as a kid. Most parents would kill themselves if their kids did like 1/5 of the insane shit that they did when they were kids. Every single parent, for whatever fucking reason, goes through this experience. So there's two issues. Is that one, parents treat kids as being too stupid, and then on two, they treat kids as being way smarter than they actually are, and they're overestimating how smart adults are. So the first issue is that like, this is an unpopular position. I don't know if any politician can ever have this position or signal on this position anywhere, ever. But like, kids running into porn is not anywhere near as big a deal, in my opinion, as people pretend it is. Who the fuck cares? Okay, every fucking.
I'd agree.
I'm pretty sure.
Weird tree porn.
Yeah, it might even be, I don't know if it was A Christmas Story or fucking Ferris Bueller's Bueller's Day Off. Like, I feel like there were so many old comedies where like they find like their dad's like Playboy, or they get like a titty mag or whatever. This is nowhere near as big of a fucking deal as for some reason, like was there a Christmas Story where some adults like think that it's like the end of the fucking world if their kid sees porn online. It's retarded. Yeah. Number one. And then number two, for the other argument that people want to make, well, maybe there are places where our kids online could fall into, and these are really radicalizing and scary spaces. I think that's true for everybody. And if there are kids if there's like a place online where a kid can fall into this and instantly get radicalized, the same thing would probably apply to an 18-year-old or a 22-year-old or unfortunately to a 65-year-old. And maybe we need to have an actual conversation about those places online. That's like my opinion. I do think that certain things like social media bans for kids under a certain age, I actually think there's some legitimacy to that. And, social media platforms can figure out how they want to address that. And if you don't want to show an ID or verify age or some bullshit to have like a Facebook account, I mean, that's on you. You're not losing access to the entire fucking internet. But the idea that like there's this especially horrible thing if a kid sees porn online and that's why we have to do all this crazy shit, or that like there are these places online that our kids could go that are super scary, they probably aren't even going to be caught by this ID stuff because they'll just be on Telegram or some other thing. Yeah. I just think it's kind of misguided, but that it's like a more sophisticated conversation, and I think most people don't want to have that talk.
Yeah, I mean the biggest problems that some children's groups, not all, but and privacy groups have is that they argue that this ban will just force kids into the peripheries of the internet where they don't give a fuck about what the government wants, which has seemed to be the case in Australia. And I think the government is also kind of looking at social media in the wrong way. They're looking at it like cigarettes or drinking, when I think it's more like the park, and maybe there's some creepy guys at the park, so maybe you should do something about the creepy guys at the park and not ban the park.
Yeah.
And also they included
back to this
YouTube, by the way, to the social media ban. I don't know if you know. Like they're banning YouTube for under 16s, which I think is
by banning.
Insane.
Okay, we're using the word ban, right? That's not exactly what it is. It's you can't create an account and you can't comment. It's not like you are prohibited from going to these sites. But second off, the thing that I wanted to say is like I think that these social media platforms should have to start moderating their things. I think it's called like Prop 250 in the US. I don't remember what the fuck it is called.
Safe harbor.
Whatever the fuck it is, like you shouldn't just be able to go and post whatever you want on Twitter, and Twitter just says, well, I mean, like they posted it, like we don't have to moderate it. These companies need to moderate their own shit. They can pay people to do it. We need to do better.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, is the Prop 250 whatever? Is that the safe harbor provision?
Section 230 is where the safe harbor thing comes from. Yes.
So, isn't that like treating the internet like the post office?
It's basically just provides a publisher protection to where you can't be sued for something that a user posts on your platform, like for user-generated content, basically.
So do you think that should be repealed or heavily modified?
Maybe there should be more to fall under safe harbor provision. So like you have to be careful about like copyrighted content. You have to respond to copyright takedown requests and stuff in order to have the 230 protections. I mean, you could just add more requirements, maybe. But it also depends on what do we mean when we say like
requirements around fake news.
Oh, sure. That's a whole different thing than like the kids conversation, though, which is like
1 billion% way different.
Sure, the marketing that everybody's focused on right now, and I don't know why. But I also don't know like why in the UK, like where is this push coming from? Like, do people feel like if kids see dicks online, they're gonna kill themselves or something?
It's not about dicks. It's about social media.
I don't think it's. I mean, I might be sounding conspiracy brain, but I think it's about just the government is scared of losing control of public messaging, and they're doing everything they can to get as much control as possible. I think that's the real motivation, and always the go-to is think of the children. That is the ultimate get out of jail free card for any government policy, because no one can argue against it without looking like a terrible person or a pedophile. Yeah. So that's my opinion on that. Okay. On why they're doing it. And it is not just Labour. It's literally every party in Parliament.
It is
it's like fully bipartisan. It's like
people want
Labour,
this.
Conservatives, Liberal Democrats. I think the only party that has said anything remotely against it is Reform, but fuck them with the spike dildo to death. So yeah, there's no way out from this particular thing I can see in terms of changing the policy. Everyone in power wants it, and it is a growing, like, the European Union is pushing something similar. You've got several states for some reason pushing something similar. Again, using porn as an excuse. Doesn't Texas?
In the United States, we all have like ID requirements in like half the states now to look at porn online or something.
And California,
it's in the Republican states.
I don't know about California. I'd be surprised.
I swear California did something similar.
I would be very surprised if California did that.
The Republican states use porn as porn is evil and you're degenerate, and the Democratic states use think of the children. But it's the same thing. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's all I had to chat about.
Right, the only other place that's doing like a social media type ban, but isn't going for like a ban, that reform, is Japan, it seems like, which there is in my notes. They were aiming at promoting the use of filters and boosting digital media literacy. It requires mobile characters to incorporate filtering of some sort in conjunction with service for users under the age of 18, unless parents expressly ask for an exemption. They're not going ban. They're going literacy.
That sounds reasonable.
Carrier stuff. Yeah.
Maybe I guess.
But I don't know if you knew this, but like by default, porn is blocked on every new. Like if you get a phone, it's blocked by default by the carrier. Yeah, in the UK. And if you move house and you get you sign up to the internet, it's blocked by default. You need to. I don't know if it's just porn, but it's like adult stuff. So you need to actually ask. Like that's already in place. And of course, parental controls have existed for a long time, and they're very, very robust now. So I don't know. I don't think it's necessary for the reasons they're giving. But I didn't know what you said earlier. Mutant, did you say that they aren't banning YouTube? They are just restricting creation of accounts.
It starts in 2027 in spring for UK. It's on Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X right now. It's under 16-year-olds can't create accounts. So, like, if you're a 15-year-old, you can still go on YouTube and search and shit, it sounds like. But you cannot create an account, you can't comment, you can't message people, etc.
Okay.
So when people say ban, this is the same as in Australia. Ban is a pretty scary word here, but it's just, you can't create an account.
And this is why we need responsible reporting, because none of this is clear in the reporting, and I certainly haven't had time to dig into it as much as it seems you have. So yeah. Well.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thanks for the call, guys.
Yep.
All right.
Have fun. Be careful. Chow, you think you're allowed to say that? That wasn't the last one.
Blue. No, that was the poor one.
Okay. Melange Blue, what's up?
Three.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me, man? What's up?
Yeah.
Woo. Okay. So I'm a little bit. Okay. First, let's start up. I know you've had bad experiences with Puerto Ricans, as I've heard.
Never. But go ahead.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think this is gonna come across as screaming at the ether, because I think you'll agree with a lot of the stuff, and you'll be like, "Hey, this is bad. What do you want me to say?" But what do you know about Puerto Rico? Like, just like super.
It's an island. It is U.S. territory.
Yeah, but like our political like status right now. Like, what would you say if it got brought up? Like, because these are like, I keep hearing that Democrats, like, if we get to the midterms and we win in 2028.
Oh, like, every Puerto Rican that I've ever spoken to, real Puerto Ricans, not white girls in the United States.
Yes, thank you.
I know, yeah. Every Puerto Rican I've spoken to, actually, because I'm always surprised by this, but they give me the exact opposite take, that like most people in Puerto Rico are opposed to Puerto Rico being incorporated as a 51st state because they feel like there's going to be.
No, that's a lie.
That is a lie? Oh, okay. This is what I've heard, is that there's a lot of pushback in Puerto Rico to, like, they wouldn't automatically be in favor of being incorporated as a 51st state for dependence and independence reasons, or whatever, but I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, it is more nuanced. I won't come here and, like, say that statehood is, like, something that a lot of people see as, like, oh, it's, like, super cool, it'll be super sweet.
Sure.
It is more nuanced, but it is the plurality position.
Okay.
It's not the majority, but it is the plurality.
Sure. As an American, when we talk about like statehood for Puerto Rico, the just purely American assumption I would have is that like 90% of Puerto Ricans would be in favor of it. Because when we talk about like statehood for Puerto Rico, it's like assumed that obviously they would want to join, and it wouldn't even be a question. Is how we talk about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that in and of itself is an issue. But I think that generally speaking, statehood has been the plurality position for quite a long time.
Okay.
Okay, so all of this is I have like a whole notes document of like talking points. This is brought. I wanted to send an email, but I thought that would be too schizo. This is brought on by that Ryan Mullally versus Bisco talk.
Yeah. Or well, dude, I don't know which one, but I've probably seen it, or at least
the last one you watched. I think Puerto Rico got brought up.
Okay.
And the talking points on both sides. Pisco's on. I like Pisco for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's Hispanic, so he has. I'm pretty sure he's heard a lot about us, but he couldn't respond to some basic points that just pissed me off so much. Like the minimum wage thing. This Ryan Mullally guy was talking about. I don't know why Puerto Rico should be incorporated as a state because
the minimum wage would hurt them. Yeah, he was just reaching.
Yeah,
he was
that
a
would
fucking
destroy
retard.
them. Yeah. And the minimum wage got recently increased. I mean, it's bad compared to other states, but it is higher than the federal minimum.
Yeah.
It's $11.50.
Yeah,
and it is ridiculous that like liberal commentators have this off the top of their dome. Like I feel like Puerto Rico is such an easy dunk for most Americans because they don't know anything about it. Dude, I remember it is one of my formative experiences going to Disney, and we're talking to like one of the tour guys for one of the like attractions or whatever, and they asked us, "Oh, where are you from?" And we said like Puerto Rico,
and they said,
like,
"What country?"
Oh, I don't know where that is. I don't know where that. Yeah, I don't know where that is, and it is just mind-boggling how we are. It also gets like whenever it gets brought up in the chat, like in the not in the chat, but in the video, or whatever, in the stream. I see the chat and they go like, "Oh, can Puerto Ricans vote?" Or like, "Oh, can they do federal stuff apply? Does federal stuff apply to them?" I think you Googled that once.
Sure.
And I understand. Look, I'm not gonna like soy out and say that. Oh, my problem is the biggest problem of them all. But man, in terms of U.S. jurisdictions, we have historically had the highest enlistment rate. It's 23%. We have bled for this for United States more than any other jurisdiction, and we can't vote and federally we don't have a say in the legislature. What we get is like basically a clown that's there to like clip farm.
Yeah,
I mean, but
ironically, I think it's like a non-voting member or something of Congress or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, it is a non-voting member. It's just this is why I'm so agitated. It's so easy to get a dunk on conservatives whenever you talk about Puerto Rico because it is loony, the state that we're currently in. I mean, man, like let me look through my notes. No, it's ridiculous. Like Ryan Mullally, the reply that most conservatives have whenever Puerto Rico gets brought up in statehood is they talk about how I'm like indifferent towards Puerto Rico being a state. But it's just I wouldn't want it for the reasons that Democrats want it because it's for power grab reasons.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean? And that whenever that happens, the easiest thing you could ask is, okay, what would be a good reason? On what other grounds would it be acceptable for Puerto Rico to become a state?
Mm-hmm.
And watch them flounder because they have no idea about anything.
No, yeah, it's literally just a partisan thing. In their mind, it would be 2 senators and however many representatives that would all vote Democrat, so they will oppose it with every single fiber of their being. It really doesn't matter what anything else comes down to.
And talking to Puerto Ricans, there is this. I could refer you to a couple readings or some important documents that are like have been formative in my view of how I see the current like political status. That's like a starter. I don't know if you'd read them, but there's a really interesting article called "Territorial Federalism" by the Harvard Review that was written around the time of our federal debt crisis. And it talks about how like it introduces like the reader to the debt crisis and how that happened. And the response by the United States was they introduced like a federal budget overview. And it like we have basically no say on it. Like we just our budget just gets completely controlled by them. And what this article was arguing is that it's a break from the usual. America kind of had like this hands-off approach where it's like, okay, we're gonna just let you hang out and do your own thing. We usually don't they usually don't interfere, but they just did like they just installed a federal budget control thing that just completely flies in the face of our
autonomy,
control,
kind of sovereignty.
Autonomy and balance of powers. Yeah, it's just so frustrating because these things have been going on for so long, and we have been there is no more cocked, no more cocked position in the United States than being Puerto Rican, because no one knows a dick about you. Our politics have been in a state of deadlock for like 20 years. Not 20 years. How ridiculous. For like 30 years, we've been in the status thing. Our elections and our parties they don't map cleanly to the left and right. They're more about status. For example, like the party that has won recently, I would say they're center right-ish. But they're really just annexionist. What do you call it when someone wants to annex? Like, yeah, they're pro statehood.
Okay.
And they have been in control for I think 10 years. This has not manifested in any political way whatsoever, despite all of that.
Sure.
It's just really frustrating talking to my fellow leftists or center left Puerto Ricans, because there's this the center left party is pro status quo with some caveats to that. And the prevailing attitude towards being a state is the idea that do you really think that the United States would let us be a state even if we wanted it? That's the idea. It's they're so much better off just keeping us around and as we are. And there's this consistent cynicism of Americans just don't give a fuck, and there's just this political inertia that is like molasses. You can't move through it.
Sure.
And what I've been trying to tell to some of these friends, it's man, you need to understand the main reason why we are currently fucked is fully, and it sounds loony when you say it, it's fully due to the Republican Party. That's it.
It's fully to the Republican Party?
It's fully due to the Republican Party and their obstructionism. In terms of of course, I don't think that the basic thing is if there was actually political will for Puerto Rico to becoming a state in the mainland, that position could not be ignored.
Sure. Okay.
It just couldn't be ignored. Despite any interest, despite anything, that position would not be ignored. Okay. Especially if we have a plurality. And just most people over here I think don't accept that. They think that the government is controlled by lobbyists, and there's interest in keeping us as a colony. That's a prevailing theory, and it's very hard to fight against that when the main reason is, yeah, man, the Republican Party really doesn't want us to vote because it'd be bad for them. And when it gets okay, yeah, we want last election there was a represented a symbolic representation for Puerto Rico, you can vote for the president in our ballot, and Kamala won. But Puerto Rico generally, our center-right party has been in power for a long time. It is not impossible for Puerto Rico to become a swing state. It's just Republicans can't get over their racism, so they just reflexively reject us. It's just so frustrating, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling. What do you think?
No, I fully agree with you. Yeah. Go argue with Ryan. Yeah.
No, fuck that guy. The fucking University of American Samoa online lawyer. Fuck that guy. I hate that dude.
Wait, is that what he markets himself as, or what?
No, that's just a joke from Better Call Saul. I think that's where I think Saul graduated from American Samoa or something. But yeah, it's just really frustrating, especially with the recent. I don't want to ramble on and on, but especially with the recent talks about other states becoming incorporated. That is so fucked. You know how fucked that is? The current joke now is that, oh yeah, we're whenever you talk with a pro statehood guy, it's we're gonna be the 53rd 52nd state or the 55th state after Canada and Venezuela and Greenland. And Trump has been joking about making Greenland a state since the Hurricane Maria, since like 2018. Like this has been some like he's talked about exchanging us for Greenland.
Sure.
It's so humiliating. And oh my God, that whole the whole thing with Maria. Like, do you know that 3,000 people died in that hurricane, and Trump just came here to like troll us,
paper
and, like,
towels, and then Elon Musk promised that he was going to build you guys like all solar energy
yes,
and all this retarded shit. Yeah.
Yes, that is double. I hate when Americans fucking soy out. Okay, not to oppression in the Olympics because hurricanes are terrible. Look, I know. But that was double the death toll from Katrina.
Sure.
Like Katrina was 1,200, I think, or 1,300. Maria was around 3,000. That is about the death toll of 9/11, and it was treated as a joke by the American by not the American media, but by the president.
No, yeah, I understand. It's pretty fucked, yeah. I have a friend who lived in Puerto Rico who, like, I just kind of assumed it was maybe bad towards the hurricane thing. I don't know if it's still like this, but, like, even, like, several months ago, I think they were talking about, like, it's pretty common that, like, huge parts of the island just, like, don't have power for multiple hours a day. Is that still common?
Whenever I go to my grandparents' house, it's just expected, like, for the power to go out.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's like an unfathomable thing in like the United States.
No, they can't understand it. They generally cannot understand it. I've had fridges go bad due to power outages. You can't sue the government for it because I don't remember what it's called, but there's a reason why you can't sue them. It's just so laughable, and I don't know, man. It's just whenever Puerto Rico gets brought up, I just try and needle them on it because I feel like no one knows, and if you do like 1 hour of research, it's just such an easy flip because these people are so they're so flagrant in their shamelessness. Like that Ryan Mullally guy is so flagrant how shamelessly he lies and he obfuscates about like the clearest moral positions.
Okay.
And it's just also our military the military involvement in Puerto Rico, despite us not getting anything back from it, the bases that we have in our island are getting like they're active again. This is the whole Venezuela thing. Like it's common for people that live there to hear like what do you call it, testing, like tanks, like stuff like that. It's just I don't know, man. It's just kind of fun.
Sure.
All right.
I'll keep that in mind.
Thank you, Melange Blue.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing. Thank you for what you do and whatever. You actually inspired me to join the. On my school, we have a political newspaper. I joined as an editor in the reference team. I found out that it's actually the first official political newspaper for our little island. So I thought that was pretty cool and pretty neat. And I got inspired by the DG, what do you call it, the paper thing,
Pragmatic Papers.
Newspaper. Yeah, Pragmatic Papers. That was really inspiring, and your research was really inspiring. Man, that was really cool. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks. Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Good luck. Have fun. Be careful.
Well, I'll try. See ya.
Okay. See you later. Knock, knock, Mootin. It's your mom.
It's my wife, and I'm banging her now.
Jesus Christ.
You're never gonna beat this guy.
What do you mean? I'm literally beating him on my first try, you fucking nerd.
Some idiot earlier said that you were gonna struggle with the boss for like an hour, and then you did it first try.
Which one?
The one that looked like hands.
Oh, the ghost thing?
Yeah.
Probably because that guy struggled for an hour. He's a fucking noob.
Oh, how right you are, dear leader. Oh.
Good one. Hey, you can send him upstairs.
Well. Oh.
Hell yeah.
You doing the child swap?
What? What do you mean by that?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes. I'm swapping mine out for an older child, so I can be even more moral.
What'd you get?
A 23-year-old.
Korean, Asian. Why? Which one?
Well, why? You can't adopt kids from other races. That's unethical, bro. What is the official date of the primaries? In November or something?
I'll look for you. Date of primaries. Primary election 2026. November 3rd.
Jesus.
We're doing an IRL stream.
Yeah, what? Because that's when my
In your
MSJ
place.
will drop too, maybe?
Me and Dan, we're just gonna walk in.
Based.
We know the address.
Yeah, so does the rest of the internet.
I'll show up with some Subway. They'll call up. They'll be like, you'll be like, oh, I must order it. Send them up.
Based.
Yeah, we're all coming. Look at them. Me and the boys on November 3rd arrive.
True.
Stay strong, okay? Lend me your strength. I got everything spinning. Tagging out. All set. I'll help you through this.
Lumo, if you DM me again, you're getting blocked.
Whoa! Why is he DMing you so much?
Begging to come in.
What does he want to talk about?
I don't know.
What was it, cringe or?
Probably.
He's begging that much to come in. He's not even saying what he wants to talk about.
No.
What's the chatter's name?
Lumo.
No.
Lumo, what do you want? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait,
0.
thinks you're still talking to him on stream. Wow. Okay.
Well, they had their chance. Is what it
Sheesh.
is. Sheesh.
Right.
Wow.
Peach, did you check my DMs?
No.
I told her I'm hungry, and I didn't get a
Oh.
response.
Whoa.
Can you play the goddamn game?
Are you fucking serious right now? Who the fuck are you to tell me anything?
So long, gay Bowser.
What is that from? Did you steal the weapon from this boss? Yes, obviously. I have every weapon. Idiot. How could I not? Oh my god. This is the end of chapter 11, right? Did Kafka say when the MSJ's dropping?
Tomorrow for sure.
Tomorrow? Thank God! Finally! Yes!
For sure tomorrow or Friday.
We made it.
1 sec.
No, 1 second for me.
Watch the audit the court clip I sent regarding the Trump voter. What happened?
Attention, Avalanche! You are surrounded. Stand down and surrender to public security immediately. Shinra does not negotiate with terrorists. Resist and we will use lethal force. I repeat, Shinra does not negotiate with terrorists. Resist and we will use lethal force. Got your lethal force right here, asshole!
I feel like what Mr. Mutin said yesterday was true. All guns should just be removed from all fantasy stuff. They just can't work in conjunction with them. Like, the power scaling just doesn't make any sense.
Dropping a whole thing. Just like that. No. No way. Tifa!
It worked for Lord of the Rings, no? I'm sorry, did they have guns in Lord of the Rings? That was in the extended edition? Okay. My bad. By the way, Connor is all hurt today, but you told people they can go after his sponsors because he was just criticizing you. Well, I think it's because he was using homophobic slurs over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And Connor has chosen the most nuclear option possible. And also, I'm not telling people they can. I'm just saying you could justify it. Descriptive versus prescriptive. These people have this level of entitlement that they can just act in the most unhinged manner possible. Connor says that because of an email from 7 months ago that he didn't know existed at the time, and then him having no concept or clue of whether or not any of it is true or not, that meets the threshold for him to report me and I guess 2 other people at least to the FBI, to the police, to CPS. Like, he's doing multi-pronged CPS calls, which, for me, whatever, fuck it, do what you want. I don't care at this point. I have at least like 15 intelligence agencies that are reading every single fucking thing on my screen at this point, I'm sure. But, I mean, by that point, you've gone so nuclear. And then his justification was like, well, I don't really know anything. I don't know how sure I am of any of this. That's why I'll let them investigate. Like, if that's your position, I'm sorry, fuck you. I don't care if you lose everything. And I don't care who reports you on any of your shit. It is crazy. The level of entitlement and the fuck around, find out lackness you've had in your life. I feel like there's been a lot of, I wonder if that's like a thing. If you grow up as like a shorter person. I'm not that short. Do you think since Connor grew up tall, do you think tall people grow up with like a sense of entitlement that like nobody will ever fuck with them? Like, are tall men kind of like white girls where they're like, I can say or do whatever the fuck I want and nothing will ever happen to me? I don't know. Like, I just, in my mind, that if I start talking about how, well, even hosting the Doobie Guy, or especially if I start talking about like reporting you to CPS, we're almost at like death levels of fighting. I figure you'll probably do whatever the fuck you could to fuck with my shit at that point. That's what my assumption would be. I don't know how he can make the assumption that, I don't know. He's wild. I don't give a fuck, though. He's retarded. So, what do you want me to say? What am I looking for? Okay, please. Yes, okay. Oh, these next 2 chapters, I'm guessing I probably just have to kill the chapter boss and then I get the manuscript, huh? Digital prostitute. Digital prostitute. Electronic whore. Jesus Christ. What a guy. disconnects them? Fuck. Oh, 37 dogs. I think you gifted 67 subs in DGG chat. Thank you. Why didn't you call him any slurs back? I don't know what slur. He's a white dude. What slurs do you have? Connor hates all OnlyFans models because he bought Belle Delphine bathwater and got scammed. Okay.
How you can defend some of the things that you've been posting for years. Can't imagine how you can defend some of the things that you've been posting for years. Some of the things that you've written. You tweeted, "Suck it up, bro," in response to a post discussing Senator Kane's objections to the pardoning of January 6 rioters.
Uh-oh.
You referred to Governor Walz of Minnesota as a tampon Tim. That was your words. You referred to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar as not an American.
The darkest timeline was supposed to be, imagine when gamers go to Congress and a bunch of them have like tweeted out random slurs or edgy things, and that was supposed to be like our big meme growing up. Who would have thought that it was, imagine people going to Congress and their social media feed is full of like QAnon shit or deep state conspiracies or just complete and total factual misstatements of the recent history of the United States. It's just like, not good.
You said in response to a tweet asking, "Is everyone in the Biden administration retarded?" Legreese responded, "Every single last one of them." You called Senator Collins a fraud. You attacked Senator Murkowski. And then there's this awful tweet that you put in the record, a matter of public record now, in light of what you're seeking here. Legreese referred in 2024, Legreese referred to police officers as dumb as dirt, close quote, when writing, quote, breach of peace, typical cop, dumb as dirt. And now you...
Oh, I talked about federalism earlier, but another thing that was crazy to me was how quickly, I think it was after Uvalde and J6. Did Uvalde happen pretty soon after J6? Every Republican started hating all the cops, which was crazy, bro. Growing up where Republicans were the biggest cop dick sucks in the universe, and then to see all of them start to fucking hate the feds and hate police, that's wild. Uvalde was 2023, no? Was Uvalde way after? I don't remember what the year was for that. Uvalde shooting. 2022. I think after J6, it was a hatred of the feds, but I'd never expected. I feel like after Uvalde, it was also like a hatred of just like local police or whatever that the conservatives also engaged in, which I just never would have expected. I don't know. These guys were huge cop dick sucks.
You're seeking a position to work with police departments all over the United States and to give to these officers who risk their lives for you and me, officers which you've referred to as dumb as dirt. You're going to be allocating federal funds. How could you do that?
So first of all, Chairman, Ranking Member, I routinely, every 90 days, purge tweets for cybersecurity exposure.
I can see why.
Yeah. Well, I am not familiar with some of the context or retweets that you might be referencing, but I'd be happy to take a look.
The Pixie defense. I don't know anything about my own tweets. Nice.
Look at them.
That's it?
Well,
at least address the dumb as dirt comment. Say something about it. I hope that you'll say you made a mistake. You shouldn't have said something like that about law enforcement officers. You want to work with police departments across the United States, and this is a matter of record that you think they're dumb as dirt? Clear the record now. Apologize to them. Say something.
As it relates to that tweet, which I don't have specific reference as if whether it was retweeted, excuse me, I would like to go on the record. Other than my brother, most of my family serves in law enforcement. I do not believe that law enforcement is dumb as dirt. I believe that I would like to take a look at the entire post in its context and what it was referencing.
You better set some time aside because there are so many posts, hundreds of posts. I can't understand how you can do a real job and continue to post every day this continuing dialogue that you have over the years. It just seems to me inconsistent with serving the public.
That's a good question. Ask Trump. Does this motherfucker even work?
$285,000 workers into career positions, raising their pay and locking in decades of pension and health obligations it has no plan to fund. When a private company's volume falls, it reduces labor costs. When the Postal Service volume fell, it added employees and made them more expensive. This is not reform. This is the opposite of reform. The new Postmaster General did not make all of these decisions, but he controls whether they continue. The fleet electrification, the multi-billion-dollar network redesign, the capital projects without a clear return. These are not unavoidable costs. They are expensive choices, and Congress deserves to know whether new leadership will continue them. At the very least, the Postmaster General should immediately implement a hiring freeze to get labor costs under control. There are estimates that $1.8 billion could be saved in the first year with a hiring freeze. We've had a year, and I haven't seen any action in this direction. And while it runs up these costs, the Postal Service will still price its core product below what delivery cost. A stamp is
Vibe check 5 months out from the election. What is your expectation for a Dem House and Dem Senate if we get them? What specifically do you want the most? I don't even know. I haven't sat down and really thought about it. I mean, it's going to mainly just be obstructionism against Trump, right? And then, I mean, that's all we can really do for 2 years, right? If we get the Senate as well, it's still just kind of obstructionism, right? Because even if you try to pass shit, you're not going to have a veto-proof majority in either chamber. Investigations? Yeah, but even in the investigations, you can't actually do anything. Well, you could wait for the next president because at the end of the day, the only thing those bodies can do is recommend charges to the DOJ, and obviously the Trump DOJ won't follow up on anything. I wonder if you could recommend charges to state bodies. Like, it's kind of crazy that we're never going to see anything related to those ICE officers that killed the 2 U.S. citizens.
78 cents heading to 82, still among the cheapest in the developing world. With its dominant products priced below cost, it's no wonder the Postal Service can't break even. That is not a business plan, it is a hidden tax. Before Congress considers another dollar of relief or more borrowing authority, the Postal Service should show the committee 5 things: a real plan to bring labor costs under control, proof that private partners will be used where they cost less, a commitment to stop capital spending that shows no return, a willingness to consolidate facilities that no longer make sense, and proof the service mandate can be met without permanent losses. And if it cannot, an honest debate about the mandate itself. Anything less is not reform. It is a slower, more expensive way to fail. And as always, the bill will be sent to the American people. Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for convening today's important hearing. For more than 250 years, the United States Postal Service has helped bind our country together. It's connected families, it supports small businesses, it ensures that Americans nationwide can receive the essential mail and goods no matter where they live. The Postal Service is the only carrier that delivers to every single address in America. That's a feat that for-profit competitors don't even try to meet. For communities across the country, particularly harder to reach rural communities, the Postal Service and its workers provide an essential public service each and every day. In 2022, I was proud to lead and pass the Bipartisan Postal Services Reform Act, which increased transparency around postal delivery performance, ended overly burdensome retiree health care pre-funding requirements, and integrated Postal Service retirees' health care into Medicare, and codified 6-day delivery service. However, it's clear that the Postal Service continues to face significant challenges. The Delivering for America plan has not worked. Costs are up, service is down, and customers are paying the price. The plan has not yielded the financial results needed to stabilize the Postal Service's bottom line. Over the past 5 fiscal years, the Postal Service has posted $9.7 billion in controllable losses.
What about the idea that Dems do all the comprehensive investigations to hand off to a Dem president on January 20th, 12:01 p.m., so DOJ investigation can begin? I think that would be nice. You would just have to signal on it and find a way to, because the average American public, they're fucking retarded and they don't give a fuck. They don't know anything about civics. So like if we get a Democratic Congress, I can already see the Republicans blaming now the Congress for any problems that come up in America. And then if all Democrats are talking about is like prosecuting the administration, I can see like especially far lefty people saying that like, you know, the do nothing Dems are just trying to win brownie points by, you know, investigating stuff that doesn't help the average American. And then the conservatives are all going to cry and whine about everything. I'm giving you reasons. I'm giving you like what the opposition statement would be. I still think we should fight on that, though. I would be fully in favor of endorsing any kind of candidate that would message on there needs to be mass investigations for the next 2 years so that the second the next person comes into office, the accountability thing is already halfway solved. Yeah.
Earlier this year, Postmaster General Steiner.
If for no other reason, especially because it might cut down on a lot of the corruption, because now people see there's going to be like accountability shit happening. So for the next 2 years, maybe there's less corruption when people see all the Democrats ready to investigate. Maybe. I don't know.
Testified in the House that the Postal Service could run out of cash as soon as this year. Since then, the Postal Regulatory Commission gave the Postal Service flexibility on how it spends revenue from its additional rate authority, providing the Postal Service with an additional $2.4 billion this year. The Postal Service has also temporarily suspended its normal contributions to the employee retirement plans to preserve cash. While the Postal Service has not provided a formal estimate of exactly when it will exhaust its available funds, it's clear that Congress and the Postal Service must take action to ensure Americans continue receiving mail reliably and affordably for the next 250 years.
Actually, I'm curious what the actual legal physical process is of facilitating a pardon. I wonder if there's any procedural way that Congress can block that. Like if there's a certain office that needs to be filled or a certain role that needs to be filled that can't have an acting member to sign off on pardons, if there was a way for Republicans to block that, for Congress to block that, I think that would be amazing. What do you put the odds of mass preemptive pardons for Trump himself, his family, and top officials? 100%. They've already talked about it. They talked about it in the last admin. They would do. He's already pardoned people that are loyal to him. He would absolutely do it this time. They already gave themselves a preemptive kind of semi-pardon from all the IRS stuff, right? I think that went through, even though the slush fund didn't. I don't even know how legitimate that would be, but.
Postal Service has shared some proposals with Congress that would help put it on stronger financial footing, including investing its pension funds, revising its calculation for its civil service retirement system obligation, as well as raising the borrowing limit. The Postmaster General is also now asking Congress to consider reviving an appropriation for the Postal Service. These proposals certainly deserve serious review, but any reform must come with real transparency, real accountability, and clear service improvement plans. The Postal Service must also do a better job of ensuring that every employee returns home safely at the end of each day. Last year, Nicholas Acker was tragically killed in an accident at a processing facility in Allen Park, Michigan. That facility was cited by OSHA on its safety standards compliance. And at my urging, the Office of Inspector General has now launched a nationwide facility safety audit. I expect the Postal Service to fully cooperate with the audit and double down on its efforts to protect all of its employees when they're on the job. And finally, we can't discuss the future of the Postal Service without addressing the recently published proposed rule on voting by mail that would enable President Trump to hijack the Postal Service for his own political gain. The Postal Service has a proud tradition dating all the way back to the Civil War of successfully delivering absentee ballots. In 2024, they securely delivered almost 100 million ballots. Last year, the Postal Service reaffirmed that its job is simply to transmit the mail and explicitly said they do not administer elections.
I would have to go back and reread that IRS thing, but kind of a spooky thing about the way that was phrased was, I think, because these guys are so clever and creative, if you were to try to investigate the Trump family for any fraud, I wonder if they would be able to throw up that tax shield and say, excuse me, but we explicitly settled a lawsuit with the IRS, and they said that there would be no investigations related to anything, even connected to or tied to tax-related things. Therefore, you actually can't investigate us for tax fraud because it's covered by this prior settlement from the IRS. I'd have to go back and reread it directly, but it felt very broad the way that it was phrased from what I can remember.
The President's March executive order directs the Postal Service to create, quote, new mail-in absentee participation list, which they will use to verify which voters are eligible to receive and cast ballots through the mail. This would give the Postal Service unprecedented authority over American elections and is an unconstitutional subversion of the Postal Service's duty. I'm disappointed that the Postal Service chose to give in to the President's illegal demands by issuing a proposed regulation that risks disenfranchising millions of eligible American voters nationwide. The Board of Governors did not even vote on these approved changes. Under the proposed rules, states must submit each absentee voter to a new national database controlled by the Postal Service and comply with new federal ballot mail-in requirements, or they will be prohibited from using the mail-in voting in their elections. The Postal Service will also conduct undefined ballot verification processes to ensure states meet these new federally imposed standards. Ultimately, the federal government will serve as the final arbiter as to who can actually vote by mail. Yesterday, I led the entire Democratic caucus to once again insist that the Postal Service abandon its effort, uphold the law, and return to...
People are saying you could just rip that agreement up. Who cares? I agree with you, but then they're going to sue to challenge it. And then ultimately, that's going to end up in front of a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court, and we're going to have to rely on them to interpret that case in the way that we would want. I don't know.
To its core functions. The Postal Service has one mission: to deliver the mail, no matter who sends it, and no matter where it's going. Mr. Steiner, I urge you to abandon these efforts and return the Postal Service to its constitutional role of simply delivering the mail, not acting as a partisan tool for the president. And lastly, I would like to reiterate that the Postal Service must be transparent and responsive to this committee so that we can work collaboratively on the many issues that we face. I hope that today's hearing will be a productive conversation about how we can work together to improve the financial position of the Postal Service and protect its ability to deliver for each and every American. Thank you, Mr. President.
It is the practice of this committee to swear in witnesses. Will you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated. David Steiner is the 76th Postmaster General of the United States and Chief Executive Officer of the U.S. Postal Service. He was appointed by the organization's Board of Governors and began his tenure on July 15, 2025. In his role as Postmaster General, Steiner also serves as a member of the Board of Governors. Steiner is the former CEO of Waste Management, a $20.4 billion waste and environmental services company operating throughout North America with nearly 50,000 employees. He was CEO from 2004 to 2016. Mr. Steiner, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chairman Paul, Ranking Member Peters, and senators of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the future of the Postal Service, a venerated institution that has driven the growth of these United States for over 250 years, longer than the country itself. The title of this hearing is apt. The Postal Service has a broken business model, and we welcome the committee's focus on fixing it. You know, levers available to private sector enterprises and to government agencies are unavailable to the Postal Service. So, for example, first, we're mandated by law to deliver to every mailbox. Address, more than 170 million of them, 6 days a week, and there are over 1 million new stops added every year. This leads to 84% of city delivery and 52% of rural delivery routes being financially underwater. Moreover, 58%, or 18,000 of our post offices are losing money, incurring over $2.5 billion in operating costs. In a normal business model, if 70% of routes are losing money, you would adjust the routes. In a normal business model, if 60% of the stores you had were losing money, you'd close them. We're not allowed to do either. That is a broken business model. Second, we're not allowed to unilaterally raise prices, and we're required by law to give billions of dollars in discounts to many mailers. Third, we can only invest our retirement assets in U.S. Treasuries. If we were able to invest conservatively in other assets, we could have had nearly $1 trillion in additional retirement assets. Wow. And our retirement plans would be well overfunded rather than underfunded. Fourth, we pay an unfair allocation of CSRS benefits for retirees that were with the Post Office Department before it became the Independent Postal Service. That costs us about $3.5 billion a year. Fifth, we cannot borrow more than $15 billion due to a statutory limit that was established decades ago that has not been adjusted for earnings or for inflation. Sixth, we're not allowed to manage our workers' compensation claims, costing us anywhere from $400 to $800 million a year. Now, despite all of these operational and accounting restraints, we're taking steps to fight our way back. That includes reducing transportation costs by $2 billion. We also reduced work hours by 56 million hours, equivalent to $3 billion, and reduced our overall headcount by 28,000. We've also made dramatic progress in improving our service scores, recently hitting on-time delivery numbers not seen in at least the last 5 years. This is significant progress, but it's not enough, and we will continue to drive costs and drive service. So, to me, the choice for Congress is clear. Either remove the mandates that create the unsustainable business model, or compensate the Postal Service for those money-losing mandates. I will note that reimbursing the Postal Service for money-losing mandates is not a novel idea. In 1971, Congress foresaw that they would be asking the Postal Service to do things that were guaranteed to lose money. In return, Congress decided to pay the Postal Service $460 million a year for those public service mandates. However, this public service reimbursement has not been appropriated since the 1980s. Our preferred proposal is that Congress update this public service reimbursement to reflect the true current costs of those mandates and allocate us those funds. However, we can also achieve profitability if we remove the money-losing mandates. But doing so doesn't just affect the Postal Service, but the entire ecosystem around it. That ecosystem supports $2 trillion in revenue and 8 million jobs. If the Postal Service reduces service and raises prices, that ecosystem suffers. Jobs are lost, and the overall economy suffers. So in closing, I'm here to tell America that we can do anything they desire, but we can't afford to do everything they desire without more help. The Postal Service has been an integral part of the growth of America, subsidizing the growth of steamships, railroads, aviation, and technology. So subsidizing the post office has been a spectacular investment for the United States. We believe this economic engine and that investment is worth saving, and we look forward to discussing with you how to best do so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be glad to take some questions.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll now proceed to questions. There are things you can control and things you can't control. And the mandates, I frankly would remove the mandates and treat it more like a business. I just remove them completely. Even some compromises,
So if you're in the country, you just don't get mail anymore. Thank you. Our brilliant libertarian, Rand Paul. Thank you so much.
You go from 6 days to 5 days, you save $3 billion. You go to 4 days, you save $3 billion. Another $3 billion. That'd be $6 billion. That's 2/3 of your annual debt just by going to 4 days. You can let people pay. If they want it 6 days, they pay an extra $30 a month or $50 a month. They get it. I think what you'd find is in the marketplace, almost nobody would pay. They'd get used to getting it in 4 days. But there are things you control. Hiring freeze. Hiring freeze, we see estimates as much as $1.8 billion a year, and actually cumulative costs going up higher. Why no hiring freeze?
We actually did institute a hiring freeze probably about 40 days ago. Put out a memo not only with the hiring freeze, but a spending freeze.
How does it work to have the postal rates change? The Postal Regulatory Commission does it. Do you ask them to do things? What is the communication between the Board of Governors and the PRC? Are they completely separate? How do rates go up?
Yeah, so our rates are capped right now. Our rates are capped by an inflation factor and then a number of stops basically type of
But do you submit something to them saying we're losing money, we're below with the market rate, we have to go up? Do you submit that to them?
Yeah, we recently, so it limits us as to what type of price increases we can get. We recently filed a petition, and they have undertaken a 5-year review. We recently filed a petition that said, allow us to raise prices to meet this loss gap that we have. That petition is under consideration right now. I would hope that the PRC would give it full consideration. The truth is, Mr. Chairman, that in my opinion, the PRC has not put the financial sustainability of the post office first. And they will tell you they have a number of factors that they have to balance. I completely agree with that. But at a time when we are failing, I think they should give more credence to allowing us to do the things that we need to do to become profitable, and they have prevented us from doing a number of those things.
If some of the numbers were accurate, you're telling us you would have gone a long way towards reducing the $9 billion, saving $2 billion in transportation costs, saving $3 billion in hours. That kind of goes along with hiring freeze. But that'd be half of your deficit for the year. But I don't believe next year's deficit is going to be half of 9.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone that I've been associated with a number of businesses, ran a very large one for a long period of time. And the problem that you've got in any business is that you've got inflation in your wage base, you have inflation in your supplier base, you have a lot of different inflation. So what you try to do is to get enough productivity to offset that inflation in your cost base. Right. This year, we will offset all but 0.2% of our cost increases. But the problem is, in order to make money, any business person go to any business school, they will tell you, get productivity to offset your inflation in your cost base, and then price and volume can drop straight to the bottom line, you become profitable.
So currently, I just want to be clear, there is a hiring freeze at the post office.
There is.
Raising the price from 78 cents to 95 generates about $1.6 billion. Hiring freeze about $1.8 billion in the first year, goes up over time. $3 billion for each day reduced. I think the hiring freeze could have come earlier, but at least you will start saving some from 40 days ago. There are some people reporting that this really isn't a full hiring freeze. I would like details on exactly what a hiring freeze means to you to make sure it means the same thing to us. I think that when you and I had talked, and when we had talked with your staff coming into this, what we really wanted was you to prepare for us. This is where we spend our money. This is where we could reduce. This I can do on my own, and this I can do with Congress's help. That's what I would do if I were in charge. I would put out things and say, well, instead of just complaining about the mandates, tell us specifically. It looks like for each one day it's $3 billion. And Congress needs to address that. Part of this is Congress's fault, because they have unrealistic mandates that make it hard for you. But the previous postmaster expanded the post office. He made the post office bigger. The only thing you really can control is you can outsource, not insource. We have known that since the beginning of time. It's not rocket science. Contractors cost less than the government employees. 80% of your cost is labor. Reducing labor is the only thing you can do, and contractors do it better. I don't care if you outsource 98% of it and have no post office, and you're a shell for contracting, because it's the only thing you can do, because nothing the post office does is efficient or makes money. So what I would like is for you to send us a more detailed, this is the money that comes in, this is what we would do, this is what happens if the rate goes up. We have sent a letter to the Postal Commission. I really think that we ought to consider combining it and just having one, just have a Board of Governors, have no Postal Rate Commission, and just have one commission. The people run it should be setting the prices, and there could be a veto power by Congress if they didn't want to do it. But the problem is when you vote on prices, nobody wants higher prices, so everybody wants to please the public, and so everybody would always vote for lower prices, but then that's part of the reason why we're here. So I hope you will at least pledge to us that you'll send me a more detailed analysis of what you can do, what you can't do, because the gist of what I got from you today is we just need to borrow more money. And that to me is, I think, defeatism and not something I'm interested in doing, just loaning you more money when you lose $9 billion a year. And it's not just you, it's the mandates, but it's also the system. And, the hiring freeze I would have done that day one. I still hear reports that it's not a complete hiring freeze. So we pledge to send us some more information on what exactly we need to do to make the post office
Absolutely.
whole.
Absolutely. I'm glad to do it. And Senator, when I took this job, I took it and had the very narrow focus of how do we make the Postal Service profitable. As I've gone through this job, I've recognized that you can't look at the Postal Service in isolation. You have to look at the Postal Service in the context of this $2 trillion industry that is virtually 100% dependent upon the Postal Service. And so what I'm trying to figure out, and I think what the discussion should be, is how do we do what is best for the American people and what's best for the American Treasury, right? How do we get the most net dollars into the Treasury? And I wouldn't have told...
Ooh, okay, so a lot of people are spamming this service, not a business service. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, in the United States, we've decided that the post office needs to be self-sufficient. I don't know why, but that's probably never changing. I do think that it does seem a little bullshit. Imagine you are mandated that you have to deliver to every single mailbox in the United States of America, but imagine that other private businesses are able to compete with you, but they could be more selective on where they deliver to. Well, that kind of sucks. So like if there are profitable mailboxes to deliver to in Miami Beach, and I go down to mail something, well, the USPS is going to charge me more than FedEx or UPS, so I'm going to ship with them because, why the fuck would I do the USPS? But if I need to ship, so that means that they're getting the profit from that. They're generating the revenue, they're getting the profit. These are the most profitable mailboxes to deliver to, and then, they beat the USPS on that. But if I want to ship to a thing that's out of range, the UPS or FedEx for the days that I want to deliver it, well, now I go to the USPS, which has a public mandate that it has to do certain jobs, even if they're not profitable. It does seem a little bullshit that you can have private companies competing with your public company that is mandated by Congress that it has to be self-sufficient, and the market is just like is not even de facto, de jure, like cut up against you.
Told you this even 3 months ago, but I would tell you that today I think it's worth discussing whether having us act as an economic engine, a development company, if you will, of this $2 trillion industry that surrounds us, if that wouldn't generate more net dollars, generate more net jobs, generate more net service for the American public than reducing days of service and reducing numbers of post offices. Now, again, I'll do it either way. We can do it either way. But I think that's the discussion we need.
You could argue that the Egyptians building the pyramids created trillions of dollars in jobs. I think it's a false argument because the money could be spent somewhere else. So we could build pyramids, we can build the post office bigger and call it, for every dollar we create another dollar. But what you're ignoring is for every dollar you put into government, that dollar would have been spent much more effectively in the private marketplace. Senator Peters.
Mr. General Steiner, the Postal Service's proposed vote-by-mail rule, published on June 2nd at the direction of the President.
Sorry, that's a standard libertarian argument. I know everyone in chat is mad because he's giving libertarian arguments, but that is true. Technically, justifying the existence of any government thing by saying, well, it creates jobs and it pays people out. I mean, like, you could literally hire, you could create a government department of cutting lawns with scissors, and you could hire 1 million workers and pay them $1 trillion, and you could have this department run and give jobs and pensions and everything else. But it's like, is that really a worthwhile diversion of federal funds to the Office of Grass Cutting with Scissors department? Like, probably not. It's not a great argument.
Senator Peters.
Mr. General Steiner, the Postal Service's proposed vote-by-mail rule, published on June 2nd at the direction of the President, as I mentioned in my opening comments, I believe should concern every American. This rule marks certainly an alarming departure from the Postal Service's long-standing tradition of neutrally delivering all types of mail. You get a piece of mail with an address on it, you make sure it gets delivered to that address in a timely fashion. You don't ask any other questions. What this basically rule will do is going to turn the Postal Service, however, into a ballot verification agency would control basically a master database of every American absentee voter. It would also give the Postal Service new power to determine whose ballots get delivered. I think the Constitution is clear. Elections are to be administered by the states, not the federal government. We have a tradition of our local communities and states administering these elections. And once again, not the federal government. So my question for you is, under what legal authority can the Postal Service regulate who and how people can vote by mail?
Yeah, as you know, our regulations are proposed regulations, not final regulations. As to the authority, I used to be a lawyer, but I was a business lawyer, not a constitutional lawyer. And so I would have to defer that to the courts to understand the authority.
Well, I think it's clear that there's nowhere in the Constitution, there's no federal law that the Postal Service is authorized to create these types of voter databases, ballot verification systems, or mandatory standards. It just simply doesn't exist. It's hard to interpret a law when it doesn't even exist there, which is what we have. Just because President Trump wants to do this does not make it law, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it constitutional. There's certainly a massive difference between general mail requirements and regulating elections. Routine changes to the postal network can have a small impact on election mail, but this effort is a power grab to swap constitutionally mandated state control for what the president wants. I think it's very clear. So last year, Mr. Steiner, you issued a rule that explicitly said that the Postal Service has, quote, no role in administering elections. What has changed?
I don't think anything has changed. Senator, I'm not a political person, and the Postal Service is not a political organization. We, as you said, I think you quite aptly said, we deliver mail. That's what we do. We deliver mail. And that's what ballots are. Ballots are mail. Now, they are a special kind of mail, obviously. They need special care. And so years ago, we recommended what we call Kit 600. And Kit 600, the fundamental premises of Kit 600 is a unique barcode and a unique envelope. that allows us to move those ballots more efficiently, more securely. That is what our proposed rules suggest, is that we have unique barcode, unique envelope. And that is not something that is new. That's something that's been being used by states throughout the country on both sides of the political spectrum. So California has followed it, Oregon has followed it, Arizona has followed it, Florida has followed it, among many other states. And so, to me, it's not a political question. It's a question of how do we most efficiently and securely move ballots. We've been recommending this for many years. All this does is make it a requirement.
Well, certainly best practices are different than having a mandatory requirement. You can follow best practices to deliver it more efficiently without having control of vast voter rolls and having the ability to have that data. This is basically a backdoor way for the federal government to get voting information that states control under the U.S. Constitution. So yes or no, if a state refuses to turn their absentee voter list over to the federal government, will the Postal Service still mail their ballots under this proposal rule?
Under our proposed regulation, no. We would tell the state that we need the manifest in order to, look, what we're asking for.
That's the answer. You'd tell no. So the proposed rule basically coerces states to conform to these new requirements and hand over their absentee voter rolls or face the consequences of not being able to vote by mail. Some states, that's all they do. Oregon is completely vote by mail. If they say, no, we control the list, the states control the list, we're not going to give it.
Oregon has followed KIT 600 since the day they started voting by mail.
This is a different issue. This will be a lot different issue. You're telling these states either give the federal government this information, trust the federal government, trust the Trump administration. We'll take good care of these. And if you don't do it, you can't mail absentee ballots. You're going to make a decision that people cannot vote by mail. That's unacceptable.
Well, all that does, Senator, is make sure that we match the ballots that a state believes they're sending out to what actually gets sent out, right? And so all the state gives us is a list of here are the voters that are supposed to get ballots and here are the ballots. We then compare the two, make sure that the ballots that are supposed to be sent get sent. If Maryland had followed that, they probably wouldn't be in the problem they're in today. So it is a much more efficient, a much more effective way to make sure that states, I would think that states would want the information to ensure that the ballots that they think are sending out are the ballots that are actually being sent out.
Well, they do know what they're dropping mail. I think they can understand that. They think if they put an address with their voter rolls on a piece of mail for a ballot and give it to you, they do expect you're actually going to deliver it. You don't have to say, we want all of your information. We want that information in our control. You mentioned Maryland. I think that was a printing error. This regulation would have done nothing to fix what happened in Maryland. The states control their own elections. That's pretty clear in the Constitution. And an effort by this administration to nationalize elections and have the federal government having this information is incredibly dangerous precedent. You can imagine sharing this information with the Department of Homeland Security and using these lists for a variety of nefarious purposes. We need to protect the integrity of the voting rolls. We need to protect the separation of elections from federal government, ensure that our state and local governments are the one administering their own elections. That's what this is about.
Well, we are the Postal Service. All we do is deliver mail. We're trying to deliver it securely, efficiently, and accurately.
Senator Johnson.
Postmaster General Steiner, welcome to the committee. Thank you for taking on this very thankless task and bringing your business acumen to the table here. From my standpoint, there's two problems. There's the operational problem. There's the unfunded liability problem. And if there's a root cause to any of this, it's because Congress, who has allowed us to become $39 trillion in debt, tries to micromanage the Postal Service with a mandate.
I don't know where this guy comes from. Not this guy. The Postmaster General, like how he was appointed or what his background is. Hopefully it's not some horrible thing. 'Cause, I mean, like, he's giving the answers technically that he kind of has to give. Like, he's not going out of his way hardcore to defend it. Maybe he does a little bit and try to compare it to this KIT 60 set of recommendations. But, like, it's not him that suggests the rule. It's the federal government. Unfortunately, right now it's the White House. It's Trump that suggests the rule. As the administrator, he just has to figure out how to implement it and then kind of sort of defend it. He could be running much, much, much heavier defense for this rule, though. And he's kind of just like, his first answer was like, listen, it's not up to me. You'd have to ask the lawyers and the DOJ or whatever else. It's up to them because the rule does come from the president. My guess is it's not his idea, but I don't know. I don't know what this guy's background is, though. Hopefully he's not like some crazy QAnon or whatever, but...
It's with all kinds of other things. So I would agree with President or with Chairman Paul. I would love to see you use your, set the mandates, the congressional requirements aside and just use your business acumen and go, this is what we would need to do to make the postal system solvent operationally. Again, I mean, this business has been losing revenue, losing volume for years, and this isn't something new. Okay, so that'd be my request as well. So, give us a detailed plan. Forget all the congressional mandates, but what would you do as a business person looking at this as business? Let's talk about the unfunded liability. When I became chairman of this committee in 2015, I got a lot of pressure to do postal reform. And the postal reform always was a taxpayer bailout, which would not fix it, would not address the operational. In 2022, we did postal reform, and we offloaded about $107 billion of the unfunded liability into Medicare, which, by the way, is not particularly solvent either. We still have $166 billion unfunded liability, correct?
That's correct.
How many years does somebody have to work in the Postal Service before they can retire on full retirement pay?
I don't plan to be here that long, so I never asked that question.
You do not know?
I do not know.
Okay, I think it's pretty short. Do you know what it was in your business?
Pardon?
Do you know what it was in waste management?
In waste management, we didn't have a retirement plan. We had 401ks.
Okay.
There's a weird thing for the post office where they also made it so you have to fund like half a century ahead of time the healthcare benefits for your workers, and you have to show that it's fully funded, which is also something that I don't think any other company on the fucking planet does this. It's a huge burden to the post office to try to show the funding for this.
Well, anyway, it'd be interesting to have that information. What is the Postal Service? What is average in private sector? Because I think one of the problems is
I do.
Oh wait, that was fixed in the last postal reform bill, I believe, in 2022. Oh, did they drop that requirement? They don't have to do that anymore.
Senator, I believe, and I may misspeak, but I believe you start vesting at 5 years. I'm not sure when you fully vest.
But I'd like to know that because that's key information in terms, and then you compare it against the private sector. I have to bring this up. I know the House passed a bill with 74 additional zip codes. We get requests. City wants your own zip code. You respond to this committee. I think the cost of setting that up would be $800 million and then $90 million a year when you're hemorrhaging billions of dollars a year. Can you just describe for the committee the problem in these, I'll call them vanity zip codes?
Sure. And first off, I do believe that we have some alternate type of solutions that we can do other than doing their own dedicated zip code. So we'd love to have our staff speak with your staff or with any of the other members of the Senate or Congress that are looking at their own individualized zip code. I think we can come up with some other solutions. The problem, it's interesting because, being the newbie here, you would think new zip code, pretty simple, right? The problem is every single digit in that zip code means something. And so if you change a digit, what do you have to do? You have to put a receiving facility there to receive that mail, right? And then as you go through our process, remember 110 billion pieces every year, call it 300 and some odd million pieces every single day. Our machines are set up by zip code so that boxes get transported to zip codes. You start adding zip codes, what do you have to do? You have to start adding more bays and more boxes, not in one plant, but in every plant throughout the United States. That's why, that 800 billion of capital that it would cost.
I also appreciate, and maybe this is just like the level that we've fucking fallen. This guy seems to understand his job. Listening to Kash Patel or listening to Bongino or listening to Kristi Noem or even fucking Pam Bondi talk about their shit, it made me want to fucking kill myself. This guy at least seems to have a decent understanding of what's going on and can answer with substance like these questions.
Cost to do it sounds like a crazy number. It's not a crazy number because you have to make that change everywhere throughout the system. And so what we're trying to do is to come up with ways where we can do it without a zip code. Part of the reason why folks want their own zip code have nothing to do with the mail. It's because it might give them different insurance rates, right? Let's address the underlying problem rather than adding another $800 billion of cost to the
Was that 800 billion or million?
I'm sorry, 800 million.
Million, that's what I thought. So just to underscore, we did a postal reform bill in 2022, $107 billion offload the American taxpayer. It didn't even come close to solving the problem. I think we need to really focus on that. Again, that's what I resisted during my chairmanship, and I'm not going to do it until you fix the problem. $107 billion didn't even touch the problem.
Yeah, and I think that is a perfect example of how we got where we are, right? The problems that were fixed there were what I call the accounting problems, right? Welfare, retirement, different things like that. They weren't the operational problems that plague the post office, right? The mandates that I talked about in my opening remarks. And so that bill took care of a lot of the accounting issues,
Again,
not all of them.
At the expense of the American taxpayer.
But it exacerbated the operational problem. How did it do that? It required 6-day-a-week delivery. And so instead of, what I'm here to say is let's have the discussion on how we holistically look at fixing both the accounting issues and fix the operational issues, because the operational issues have not been addressed in the prior reform acts.
Thank you.
Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member Peters, for this hearing, and welcome, and it's good to see you, Mr. Steiner. As you already discussed with Senator Peters, the Postal Service recently proposed a rule that would allow it to unilaterally block ballots from being sent to certain voters before they ever have the chance to cast a vote. This un-American plan will inevitably result in some law-abiding U.S. citizens not being able to receive the ballots they're entitled to and reduce citizen participation in our democracy. And in my state of New Hampshire, where people vote absentee only if they are physically unable to be at the polls on Election Day, and often don't know that that will be the case until kind of the 11th hour, it means that some eligible voters will be unable to vote in my state. The plan is also blatantly illegal. The Constitution is clear that states are responsible for elections, not the Postal Service. So I'll join with other colleagues in urging you to immediately withdraw this rule. But even setting aside the merits of the rule and your own views about whether it is legal, I want to ask a more basic question about the rule of law. If a court tells you to withdraw your rule or to not enforce it, will you follow that court order?
Obviously, we follow court orders.
Good.
Like, it's so fucking pathetic. It's super simple. Yes. Right? I feel like is it Bondi or Patel that got asked questions like this? Like if the court tells you not to do something, it's like, that would never happen. Donald Trump would never, ever tell us to do something that's illegal. I can't even fathom. I can't answer the hypothetical. Donald Trump saying something illegal? No. No, I can't even imagine that. I don't even know what you mean when you say that. I can't even process that statement. It doesn't make any sense to me. This is the correct answer. That's good, unequivocally.
your rule or to not enforce it, will you follow that court order?
Obviously, we follow court orders.
Good. Okay, moving on. On-time delivery for first-class mail in the New Hampshire region has fallen by more than 10 percentage points over the last 8 years and is now more than 5 percentage points below the Postal Service's own target of 87%. That means nearly 1 in 5 letter-class mail in the New Hampshire region has fallen by... Good. Okay, moving on. On-time delivery for first-class mail in the New Hampshire region has fallen by more than 10 percentage points over the last 8 years and is now more than 5 percentage points below the Postal Service's own target of 87%. That means nearly 1 in 5 letters are failing to arrive on time. Prior efforts, including cuts to overtime and moving some mail processing out of New Hampshire, likely have contributed to those delays. As Congress considers options to address the Postal Service's financial deficit, those options will depend on your commitments to meet certain service levels. And I think you laid that out today pretty well. What specific commitments can you make to maintaining on-time delivery in rural areas, and how can this committee hold you to them?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to maintain on-time delivery. We want to improve on-time delivery because it really is, to me, that is the calling card of the Postal Service, right? That is the price of admission that we have. If we can't effectively and efficiently serve our customers, then I completely agree with you. You shouldn't give us any help. And so, as I've looked at it, a big part of what we've got going on is the fact that we don't have end-to-end visibility. And that is sort of what I've called the moonshot at the Postal Service now, is how do we get end-to-end visibility? Because what happens, I won't go into a lot of detail, but what happens is when that box that's going to New Hampshire gets delivered, and then it's supposed to go first in, first out, and then another 100 boxes get delivered. It gets buried somewhere and
so
lost.
Just because my time is limited,
sure.
What commitments can you make to maintaining or improving on-time delivery in rural areas? And again, what do you need from this committee? And if you can be brief, and we can follow up after the committee if necessary.
Yes, no, look, I would love to have, there are so many different categories of first-class mail. I'd love to have that. Let's make sure, we should be delivering at least as well as our competition delivers packages, so we're talking sort of 95%.
Right, and look, rural America depends on the post office for a whole lot of things. That last mile of delivery is critically important. We're talking about people's medications. We're talking about payments for small businesses and supplies. So this is really important to us. So let me just move on to one other issue, and I want to follow up on on that last line of questioning with you and get some details and get some commitments. But during your House testimony on March 17th, you committed to giving Congress 5-year financial projections on cost-cutting measures. In a subsequent letter, the committee asked you to respond by this Friday. Getting timely analysis is critical for Congress to act on your requests and understand the impacts of possible reforms on the services provided to our constituents. Will you meet Friday's deadline?
Yes, I think we can meet Friday's deadline.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I've spent the last couple of days studying for this, so I haven't had a chance to look at that. But we'll get you something by
Well,
Friday.
so have you read the analysis? I mean, it was due Friday, and if you think you're going to meet the deadline.
Yes, and so what we put together is basically, here's what our trend line is, and then here are the things that can move that trend line up or down: price, volume, productivity, and so what we can get you is here's the trend. Here's how we think we can bend that trend positively or negatively.
So let me.
I think that's exactly what.
Let me. What cost-cutting measures have you identified as part of the analysis, and what impact would they have on the projected date that you'll run out of cash?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what we're doing from a cost-cutting point of view, it really, for us, is all about the effective and efficient movement of the mail. And so you've got to look at the various
Right, but what specific measures have you identified, and what does that do in terms of the long-time projection from when you're running out of cash?
So let's walk through, if you want, we can walk through the entire sort of mail system. So you've got the carriers, right? The carriers that deliver mail, that pick up mail. We look all the time at how do we make those routes more efficient. Then you go to the processing plants. We're looking at how do we make that more efficient. Obviously, you have to have investments in technology. And then that mail gets transported. We're looking at how do you take out transportation costs. As I mentioned, we've taken out $2 billion in transportation costs. And then you've got it showing up again at another plant where it ultimately gets delivered by the carrier, that full cycle. We look at every single phase of it.
So you have proposals in this letter, and I realize I'm a little over time. So what do those proposals do to the projection of when you'll run out of money? Are you going to be able to be solvent for longer?
Yeah, I do want to clear up a misconception because, I think the PRC testified that we've got cash to last us a certain amount of time. Let me be very, 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 very clear. We are out of cash. We are out of cash. If we had to pay all of our bills today, we could not pay all of our bills today. We are out of cash. What we are doing right now is we're basically borrowing money from our retirement plans to fund current operations. I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I promise you our employees are not particularly comfortable with that.
And neither am I.
You all shouldn't be comfortable with that. None of us should be comfortable with that. To me, that's why we have to have this discussion of how we fix this broken business model.
So I am over time. I want to follow up with you, and I hope you will be more clear about what the savings you think will do in terms of your cash flow and cash solvency.
Absolutely. Glad to come meet with you at any time you'd like to have that discussion. Glad to do it.
Senator Langford.
Chairman, thank you. David, thanks. Thanks for stepping into this role and taking this on. This is a tough task to be able to take on. I'm always interested in when we in Congress are talking to USPS about how you balance your budget. I find that always ironic for us to be able to be in that conversation as a body that has $2 trillion worth of overspending this year. And
I wasn't going to bring that up.
No, I will. It is a challenge that we got to be able to figure out. I want to be able to drill down on multiple things here. Part of the challenge that you're facing is not only the complexity of the organization, the number of people that are in the organization, the equipment that are there, the out-of-date buildings, and all the other things that are there that make this incredibly expensive to be able to manage, but the lack of flexibility
flexibility to be able to actually help fix this. So I want to drill down on a couple of things. In the short time that you've been there so far, we're dealing with, over the last 10 years, and you've only been there months at this point, but over the last 10 years, delivery has gotten slower as well. So we've got increasing amounts of expenses and decreasing speed of service. In the same time period, Amazon and Walmart are racing to try to get deliveries to people's homes in 2 hours, and it's now taken 5 days for a lot of folks in rural America to be able to get a letter moving, where it used to take 2 in the past. As you're dealing with the debt in other areas, this has got to be one of the areas you're focused on as well, is just speed of delivery, because that increases the volume of people actually using that. Where are you going on that?
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, the moonshot, the visibility, right? I mean, the reason why, well, let's look at the context first. FedEx, Amazon, UPS, deliver, call it anywhere from maybe 8 to 10 billion packages a year. We deliver 110 billion pieces every year. So the magnitude, the difference in the networks is dramatic. And so for us, it's all about visibility. We've got to know where that piece of mail is at any particular point in time, because what happens is it gets shoved to the back of the line and forgotten. And so we are working on it right now to where we can get visibility into every piece, so that if we see that a piece is delayed, we can call that plant manager and say the piece is delayed. This is not rocket science technology. This is not technology that doesn't exist. This is technology that exists, that other companies use. Again, because we've underinvested in the network, because we don't have the cash, we haven't been able to get that end-to-end visibility. That is absolutely where our focus is right now.
Okay. It's interesting to me. There's been an ongoing dialogue for a while about zip codes. And this has been fascinating for me. And a lot of it's really based around tax collection, quite frankly. Online businesses and trying to be able to get tax revenue to that local community.
I'm a letter carrier. We are losing money. As we are losing money, the sheer number of supervisors they hire is insane. Some offices have more supervisors than carriers. It's crazy, and they aren't slowing down. Wow.
And let me just give you a couple ideas. We have a beautiful community in northern Oklahoma called Enid. Vance Air Force Base is there. Great community, fantastic folks. There's also North Enid, which is a different town. And everybody just thinks, no, it's the northern part of Enid. No, it's not. It's a totally different town. Same zip code, by the way. And the confusion is always there between North Enid and Enid to try to figure out where's tax revenue going and everything else. And they base it on zip code collection on this. This has been an interesting thing. They're not looking for a new post office. They're not looking for a new physical location. They're trying to do better tracking of zip code offices and trying to be able to get tax revenue. A lot of it's really based around tax collection, quite frankly. Online businesses and trying to be able to get tax revenue to that local community. And let me just give you
Hold on, I'm sorry. Wait.
Again, because we is absolute where our focus is right now.
Okay. It's interesting to me. There's been an ongoing dialogue for a while about zip codes. And this has been fascinating for me. And a lot of it's really based around tax collection, quite frankly. Online businesses and trying to be able to get tax revenue to that local community. And let me just give you a couple ideas. We have a beautiful community in northern Oklahoma called Enid. Vance Air Force Base is there. Great community, fantastic folks. There's also North Enid, which is a different town. And everybody just thinks, no, it's the northern part of Enid. No, it's not. It's a totally different town. Same zip code, by the way. And the confusion is always there between North Enid and Enid to try to figure out where's tax revenue going and everything else. And they base it on zip code collection on this. This has been an interesting thing. They're not looking for a new post office. They're not looking for a new physical location. They're trying to do better tracking of where actually revenue should go and how they should actually flow.
Go fuck yourself. Why? That's not the post office job for them to figure that out. Figure out a different way to track it. How bullshit. Why are you trying to saddle the USPS with different zip code tracking mechanisms so that you can account for your fucking tax revenue? Like, that's not even that unique of a problem. I live in a city called Miami Beach. Some people think that this is Miami. It's just the beach. It's not. It's a different city. And I think there's a different city to the north called North Miami Beach. That might be a totally different city too. Hold on, wait. Let me check actually. North Miami Beach. Is that its own city? It is its own city. So Miami Beach is a city. North Miami Beach is up there. That's a city. And then we have Miami is its city. I don't know if the zip code is the same or not. But it's not the post office's responsibility to assign zip codes in a way to make it easier for you to figure out your tax revenue. Why the fuck would that be the job of the post office?
I can give you lots of different ideas, like the fabulous community of Hochatown in southeastern Oklahoma, which is a great resort community around a lake. They're also connected to Broken Bow, same zip code on it. They're trying to figure out, they're totally different operations between Broken Bow and between Hochatown on it, but the tax revenues all go into one. How do we solve this? They're not looking for a new physical place. They're just looking for a different number on this. Why is this so hard?
Oh my God.
I mean, as I said earlier, every number means something in that zip code. Yeah. Right? And our entire network, so those 110 billion pieces only move because every number means something. And every time you add a new zip code, what do you have to do? You have to add something to the network, right? That's why, when I first heard that it would cost $800 million to fix all these zip codes, I thought, well, that's crazy. But it's true, because you don't fix. There is not one light switch that you flip and say, okay, now the mail goes there. You've got to change the entire network. And that takes a lot
Is that a technology issue just from out-of-date technology? Because just about every other system, you change some numbers on it and it reroutes.
No, it's not technology. It's physical assets, right? And so for example, we'll have a sorter that's lined up and it would have call 24 bays in it, right? You add zip codes, you got to add a 25th bay, a 26th bay, a 27th bay, because those boxes are going to that specific zip code. And you don't have to add that in one plant. You have to add that in every plant. And so it's the multiplying effect of the capital that's required. We are, and I would love to have our staff sit with your staff, and again, with any members of Congress. Let's figure out a way, because the underlying problem is insurance rates, taxes. It's not delivery of mail. The underlying problem is not our problem. Would love to have us all get together and say, how can we fix this and change it without having to massively change our system.
Yeah, I look forward to that conversation. We've had some good dialogue before about the electric vehicles that were purchased by previous administration with no chargers and some of the waste that was done there that should have been actually going towards actually improving the quality of delivery on this rather than towards some other random goal that wasn't met. So thanks again for your work.
Thank you.
Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming before us.
Okay. I'm connecting and leaving. Fuck you guys.